Hello everyone and welcome back to Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64. I am One Welsh Sheep yet again, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to we're going to enter the next big world of the game, Clanker's Cavern. And now we have the ability as well that if you go onto these puzzle pieces and press the Z button, you can chuck all the jigsaw pieces you can into the puzzle. Why could we not do this before this point? I have no idea. It's a very annoying little quirk this game has on repeated playthroughs where the game will not let you do something until it explicitly tells you you can do it. Even though it's just a basic, simple thing like removing a puzzle piece or adding all of the puzzle pieces into a picture, you know? You need to wait for balls to tell you, oh, by the way, you can do this before it lets you, and it's a bit annoying, what can I say? But anyway, as I said in the end of the last part, this is basically the water/sewer level of the game. And as far as water/sewer levels goes, it's actually a really good one. It's really fun. The music is godlike. I'm gushing over the music in this game. I cannot stress how good the soundtrack is, people. I mean, listen to the soundtrack. Well, you can't really listen to the soundtrack over me rambling, but you know, when you get the chance, just look up the soundtrack of the game at the very least. Grant Kirkhope's just legendary just because of this game alone. That's even ignoring all of his other projects. Like, he's done music for tons of games, including Kings of Amalur and Viva Pinata, and they're all brilliant. But we brought new enemy type to be introduced by here. Now, most of the enemies in this game are usually very basic cookie cutter, I'ma chase you and you hit me enemies. But this is an enemy type we're going to see quite through the game, where they're going to sort of spawn out of the wall and going to try and surprise attack you. Obviously, they're really easy to tell they're about to attack you, so whenever you come up to these vents on the wall, just do your big peckety-peck-peck attack. Peckety-peck-peck. I like the way that sounds. Peckety-peck-peck. Well, just get that attack ready, and you'll be able to take these guys down before they're ready to attack you, so there's that. And speaking of the beta, actually, of Banjo-Kazooie, we're about to be introduced to a very friendly face who doesn't look friendly in the slightest. Honestly, it could probably terrify you if you don't think he's friendly. His name is Clanker, and he's basically down here through this little cavern area here. And back in the beta version of Banjo-Kazooie, as you can tell by here, this is basically just a giant whale who's Gruntilda's garbage grinding machine, who wants fresh air. I didn't know robots could breathe, but okay, I'll go with it. But in the beta version, he wasn't a robot. He was actually just a normal everyday whale, and judging by the clip that he was in, it looked like he was in the World Fungus Forest, which, like I said, was scrapped. It's no longer in this game, you know, people. It got moved to a different game that Rareware made later down the line called Donkey Kong 64. A game I try not to talk about too much because I get a little bit heated when I talk about that game, and it's overuse of collections. Sorry. But no, what we need to do is just swim down here and go through this little key thing 3 times in order to loosen up Clanker's chains a little bit, allowing him to gain some fresh air, which is very good. And obviously, you can expect he's going to be thankful. He's going to give us a glorious reward for doing this. Because we aren't the best Good Samaritan. We're not really Good Samaritans in the traditional sense, you know. If we know we're going to get something out of it, we'll do something. In fact, nothing stops us from beating on enemies and people just to get our own way, which you're going to see a little bit later on in the desert level of the game. But anyway, this fish by here is Gloop. Obviously, we can't breathe underwater, so Gloop's going to give us air bubbles in order to help us survive. So just pay attention to that. And I haven't actually gone across the swimming controls yet, have I? So now's the best time to really talk about them. It is the water level, of course. Whenever you're underwater, you can press the B button in order to swim fast, and the A button to swim short, and the analog stick will obviously move you up, down, left, right. Obviously, you press down to go up, up to go down. It's standard flight controls, you know, ladies and gentlemen. But normally, you can't turn as well as I'm turning right now. You might be wondering, how am I turning very well in this? Like, I know a lot of veterans of this game who don't actually know you can do this. Well, basically, if you hold down the R button on the Nintendo 64 controller, you can actually turn at an extremely sharp angle. This works while flying as well. It doesn't just work for swimming. The game never tells you can do this, ladies and gentlemen. I just found out of pure luck, and I'm so glad that I found out, because swimming in this game is more awful. It's actually really awful when you don't know how to do this. But when you know how to do this, swimming is really not that bad. Swimming is actually quick. It actually becomes pretty fun, you know? But now that we actually have freed Clanker, pretty much the entire level opens up to us. Before Clanker's free, we have access to half of the level at most, if we're lucky. But now that he's free, because believe it or not folks, Clanker himself is half of the level. What do I mean by that exactly? Well, I'm going to talk about that a bit more later down the line in the stage, because I don't want to spoil it just yet. Either way, we're going to need to use him to platform up to areas, and obviously this tail by here apparently it isn't that steep. I keep thinking this tail, this little fin thing is way too steep for you to run up normally, but no, you can just run up it normally. Handy to know that, because whenever you're using Kazooie's Talon Trot ability, obviously you're moving up really rapidly and your controls become a lot less precise and a lot more slippery, which is to be expected really, but it can make certain areas really challenging, so just be a bit careful. Especially with the Nintendo 64 version, because the control stick on the Nintendo 64 itself, those controllers, they don't age well. And by that, I mean, after time, like, after a certain amount of time, the N64 controllers they become more and more imprecise, you know, folks? Like, I'm playing this with a controller that I've had since the launch of the Nintendo 64. My controller, I'm surprised, it still works. But as a result, the analog stick is really imprecise, so it's actually really shocking that I'm able to do as good as I am with the way the condition my analog stick is in. And it's not even my own fault the analog stick is in a bad condition, it's just the way the controllers were built. The analog sticks were really early for their time, you know, they were new technology, analog was, when it first came to be a thing, which was the N64, I believe. At least I think so, anyway, I recall the N64 being the first console to use analog sticks, I could be wrong. Anyway, go up here for a hidden honeycomb piece. It's very awkward when I find it. I was stumped finding that one years ago. But yeah, the analog sticks are just no good, you know? Just if you can get a brand new N64 controller, that's great and all, but just be prepared in about 5 to 10, maybe even longer years time, they will degrade, and there's nothing really you can do about it, unfortunately. Especially if you play games like Mario Party, that stuff destroys the controller. And your hands. Oh my god, Mario Party was... We had to put up with a lot of stuff back in the day. Now that I think about it, you know, we had physical injuries from our games. What can you say that people get that from Call of Duty? And no, repetitive strain injury does not count. And people malnourishing themselves don't count either, because that's just people being stupid. Play games for hours on end without eating. I never really understood that. Come on, people, you feel hungry, you go get food. But I digress. Anyway, be careful of that Jinjo. That is a very easy Jinjo to miss. And this by here is also a very easy honeycomb piece to miss as well. I feel that the honeycomb pieces you can get in this game are really... They can be really awkwardly placed. In that sometimes... They're just hidden in areas where you wouldn't really look. They're actually the hardest items in the entire game to find, folks. So, yeah, if you don't know what you're doing... Well, even if you know what you're doing, you can probably still get stumped by some of these honeycomb pieces. So just keep looking out. What can I say? This game really does emphasize platforming and exploration. More so exploration than platforming, but... That's actually a big complaint a lot of people have about these collectathon 3D platformers, is they're more focused on the exploration aspect and collecting as opposed to the final, you know, the mainline platforming. And honestly, I don't find that to be an issue because there's enough platforming in this game for me. And I'm always a platform person, and you can probably tell that just by looking at my YouTube channel library, you know, of games I've covered. I love my platformers, they're my favourite game genres out there, and I always go to platformers. I honestly feel this game has enough platforming to be worth being called a platformer, you know? And even all the other collectathon games I've played, they're worthy enough as well. As long as you got enough jumping, climbing, and a general exploration that doesn't involve going on a flat plane, that's enough for me, you know? And just these games focus on the exploration. I do love that, you know? And I have stressed before that I don't like exploration in certain types of games, or at least a focus. What I should clarify with that is basically I only mean that with games that are 2D, like Metroid, for example. Like, if I always get lost and I always can never figure out the right way to go in those sort of games. But for some reason, when you get the third dimension involved, when you get the Z-axis involved into those type of games, it just works. And I don't know why. My brain just instantly clicks and goes, okay, I know exactly where things were after like the first playthrough and after finding them the first time. And it just, I don't know, repeated playthroughs are pretty fun. But anyway, going into this green room by here, we have to take out these green mutant snippets. And I'm assuming we're racist against crabs, because that's all we've been doing throughout this entire bloody game. We've been killing crabs. I mean, no one likes crabs in terms of the parasite kind, but come on. It's not to take our anger out on actual sea life. I mean, it's kind of morbid as well. We're not even really killing crabs normally. We're decimating them. Every time we kill enemies in this game, you'll see the enemies will crumble into like a million bits that just all fly about the room. And I love it because it fulfills my inner destructive desires that I always have. But and now 1,000,001 people on YouTube are worrying about my mental health. But it's just really morbid if you think about it. You kill a crab, but you don't just kill them, they explode. I love it, but it's kind of terrifying considering we're playing as characters that have the ability to do that, you know? It's not even the crabs. Pretty much every enemy type in this game can be destroyed like that, with the exception of like the humanoid characters, I suppose. I'm trying to think, how many humanoid characters are there in this game, really? I don't think there's many. Like, the last world we had ourselves taking care of crabs and whatnot. The first world had a human enemy, and the rest were termites that also exploded upon impact, so I don't know. But anyway, we might be wondering, what am I doing? Because it really does look like I'm going nowhere for the most part in this world. I'm not. Believe it or not, folks, I'm really not. There's loads of different caverns and whatnot you need to check out in this first major chamber. And most of the time spent in this world will be in this first major chamber, just looking around all the nooks and crannies, going through each of these hallway passages, just to see what there is, you know, folks? Like, for example, I got loads of tubes down here. I haven't swam through any of these yet, and obviously jiggies and whatnot are going to be down here, you know? Sometimes you could be lucky and get loads of newts. Other times you could be unlucky and you get loads of feathers, which I say unlucky, but trust me, getting loads of feathers is a good thing in this game. But speaking of feathers, you might have noticed earlier on in the video we actually picked up golden feathers. Well, that's basically our indicator that, like with when we got the red feathers for the first time, we're about to get a brand new power-up in this game. And this power-up utilizes these golden feathers, in which case we can carry a maximum of 10 of these swords at a time. Well, you might be wondering, why such a little amount? And why am I not swearing to the service? My my air bar is really low. Go up past me. Go up. I must have a death wish. There we go. I'm safe. My paranoia can be fulfilled. But yeah, it's an ability that we won't be using much, but it's going to be useful for when we do use it. And I'm not going to spoil too much about what that ability is. Anyway, in fact, now what we need to do is actually help and alleviate Clanker's toothache here, because obviously he has a toothache. So, open up his mouth by shooting eggs into it, and we'll actually be able to gain access to his mouth, and one side will have a jiggy. But then it will be there's another side that of his mouth that you need to shoot the teeth down with, eggs, and that side will give you a mumbo token. So yeah, be careful, get both a Jiggy and token. And the next basically the rest of the level takes place inside of Clanker. And one creepy thing I have to say about Clanker is whenever you're close enough to his eyes, you'll notice his eyes will start to follow you. I kind of like that, but it scares the hell out of me. I mean, Clanker's a really friendly giant mechanical whale, but I'll be damned if he isn't creepy. I mean, this area looks really disgusting as well. I like the way this looks, you know, I like the sort of idea of them merging technology and flesh into one big thing, but yeah, it's a bit of a creepy thing if you think about it. Anyway, these giant tentacles, do not get hit by the tentacles. Tentacles are bad. Tentacles hurt. So that's just a thing to be careful of. And we got a bit of a mini game to do here, folks. Basically, just jump through the green hoop and follow the pathway until you reach the end. That's all there is to it. And this type of minigame, the sequel game Banjo-Kazooie loves. Oh, the Banjo-Kazooie loves this type of minigame. You're going to see this a lot in the sequel. Which I will be tackling in this channel, by the way, folks. I'm not just going to leave this a one series LP. I'm not just going to do Banjo-Kazooie and ignore the rest of the games. I am going to be doing Banjo-Kazooie later down the line. Debating nuts and bolts, because I don't really consider that being much of a banjo game. It's a fun game, but it has its problems. But I digress. Anyway, as a result of jumping through all those hoops and performing Superman 64 obviously with good controls and not the flying, we have access to get hold of yet another Jiggy! Yay! And it does seem like you can't jump up here where the Jiggy's at. You can jump up here. All you need to do is just do Kazooie's hover thing by pushing the jump button twice, and it gives you just enough height so you can jump up onto the platform, you know? Anyway, swimming over here now, we have access to this panel, and this panel will be our key to gain access to the most important power of the game. Not the most important power of the game, but basically the power you can pick up in this level, you know, folks. The thing we got the golden feathers for, which is right in this room. So just checking here. Oh my giddy aunt, as Conker would say. This doesn't look dangerous at all. But fortunately, this power is an I are super strong, can't get hurty power up. There we go. There's a bit of a saying on the tongue, but it's easier for me to say than invulnerable. I just said invulnerable perfectly. Oh, for Christ's sake. But anyway, it's invulnerability. You press the Z button down and press the C stick to the right, and boom! Nothing can hurt us. We get a glorious invincibility jingle, and I like to pretend that it's basically Banjo and Kazooie going into a super form. Like, I have this, I don't know, when I'm playing games, I have this thing about super forms, and I really love super forms in gaming. So I always just think of it as a super form, because honestly, if enemies touch you when you're in this form, they'll explode, and you can't get hurt at all. So, trust me, it's a useful power. I don't use it too much, with the exception of, like, the final world, that one sequence there, and basically, there's very few instances in this game where you're going to be using the invulnerability power, but trust me, it does help. It is a nice thing to have. Anyway, scrolling all the way down here on this side of Clanker, we have access to the Jinjo, and this is the final Jinjo of the lot, which leaves us with one Jiggy left to go. And this last Jiggy, for some people, might be a bit of a tricksy bastard to find, because not many people realize there's actually, like, hold on, 1, 2, 3. There's 4 entrances to Clanker. You know, not including his teeth. Like, his teeth count as one entrance, both of them do. So, there's 4 entrances total to Clanker, and we've basically been through 3 of them now. So, where's the 4th one, you might ask? Because the 4th one is mainly where you need to go. The 4th one leads you straight to the next Jiggy and the Gruntilda switch in order to, well, get hold of the Jiggy in Gruntilda's lair, you know? Well, it's basically this thing. Remember we jumped on, hit the giant screw on this guy's head earlier on? Well, wait for the screw to jump on up, and jump in, which will allow us to progress through here, which is another sword blade puzzle, but because the sword blades are really not going that fast, we don't need to use invulnerability at all to get through this. We can just time our walking and just sort of go, yep, just walking fine. Seriously though, I'd hate to see this in first person view, you know, from Banjo's perspective, because this must be terrifying, going through this chasm with all these sword blades spinning around, you know. I'd hate to have to do that, I really would. Oh, I can't wait for the eventual Banjo-Kazooie Oculus Rift first-person virtual reality mod, because you know someone's gonna make it. You just know someone's gonna make it, and I will hate them for it. Because I know there's a mod for Super Mario 64 to use the Oculus Rift and virtual reality helmets, and from what I've seen of that mod, it's terrifying. Obviously, you're seeing the world through Mario's eyes, and you still have to make all these jumps and stuff, but everything seems so much bigger when you're not zoomed out in the camera like this. You know, folks, it's first person in these type of games, they're not good. And I'm not really a big fan of first person platformers in general anyway, like Mirror's Edge. I just don't like it. I can't get into the game, you know. On the PC version, I literally can't get into the game. I can't get the game to work. But I just can't get into games that are first person for the sake again of being a first person, you know. Like Mirror's Edge, it's a first person free running game. Okay, cool. Problem is, the controls are awkward and I can't really get into that type of game, and I've never been a fan of first person stuff, really. You know, they work when they work really well, but I just prefer a third person adventure. My sister sings in her own band, Grunty and the Cauldron Crew. They're awful. I bet they are. I mean, I wonder what they would sound like, because all I can hear from Grunty is rah, rah, rah. So would Grunty be doing like a cover of Let It Go or something? Let it go! Let it go! Can't think of a rhyme for this song! I don't know. But anyway, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are now accessing, well, we are now have the ability to access this area. And this right here is the next zone of the game, the Bubble Gloop Swamp. And as you can probably guess, it's a swamp level. Yay! It's another level trope that people usually despise in gaming. And much like Kanka's Cabin, it's another level trope where Rareware breaks the norm, and they do a fantastic job delivering on this level trope. You know, folks, like Clanker's Cabin, I didn't really talk about what I think of the music and whatnot and the actual level design. I think it's perfect. Seriously, like I said, this game, I would honestly consider it to be a perfect game. Like I said in the last part, it's just, it is really that good a game. It's really that well designed, and I just can't say wrong about this game. It does have problems, like I said, all games have problems, but they're very minor problems. I think I already stated all the negative stuff I have for all this game, really, you know, folks? But anyway, popping on up here, time to open up this last north doorway, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this part, so thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't be sheepish, people, and I'll catch you all next time when we tackle Bubble Gloop Swamp. So thanks for watching, people. Don't be sheepish. I'll catch you all then. Bye!